Welcome to Siemens NX Design Review of Synchronous Modeling. As you can see, synchronous commands have their own gallery within the NX application. What is synchronous modeling? Synchronous modeling enables users to modify 2D and 3D geometries regardless which CAD system they were constructed. Whether or not they have any features, users can make quick design changes using this function. For example, users can open a legacy file that was created in NX many versions ago and need to make some design changes, where a design intent is not very clear or was never defined in expression. Other type of scenario is where changes are relatively small, but there are extensive features in the feature navigator to make it impossible to find the right feature to edit. A common situation is the data was from another CAD system through translation where there's no parameters to edit. Regardless which scenario the data sets in, users must make the design change to facilitate the design modification.
We'll now review the synchronous modeling of the move face. There are several examples we'll go through under the move face. We first select a planar face. What we want to do is, once we select that, we see that there's a lot of different options under the motions, which way options that we want to select. And then as we drag the handle up and down, we see that the design is being modified, and then we can specify a particular value. So that's how we can do that. You notice that NX also tracking that in our part navigator. Next thing we want to do is move a couple of geometry. In this case, we want to move the cylindrical face inward. So as we pick that, we want to select a vector, and in this case, where the vector is properly looks like it's a correct orientations, we want to go ahead and just drag that downward to a input value, and once that is done, we select apply. The following example we want to show is we want to orient, we want to pull that in a certain direction. We also want to orient and rotate that. So first we want to do is go ahead, extend that. We don't have a proper vector. We're going to grab onto the edge of that, and it's going to give you some warning, the alert saying that it's going to help you resolve some of the area where the NX will heal the geometries. So once that is done, we want to now create a rotating motion. So we're going to grab onto cylindrical face and then the planar faces, because those two faces will also be involved in the rotations of this the next move that we want to do. So once I select the two vertical faces, we want to select a vector. In this case, the vector should be pointing upward. So we need to be very careful when we select that to make sure we select the vertical axis. So we have done that. We want to pivot off the center of the cylinder. So once that is done, we want to reorient our viewing and then just drag onto the handle to the kind of a most correct vertical orientations that we want to have. So that's how we can quickly reorient some of the design to the proper orientation. The next example we will review is the point to point. In this case, that we have 2 points of that is a whole possibly misaligned. We want to select the two cylindrical faces, and then we want to change that to we can leave it change it to a point to point. We want to select first the center of the cylinder, and then we're going to change it to the specified point. So that's how we can realign these. Now you notice when we've done all these, NX is beginning to track each one of those as a feature. So we can go back and read, define, or change the value at any given time. For example, the very first one, we had the value of 15. We can go back and change that to a different value, such as 10. So this is the power of synchronous. We'll now review the synchronous modeling of delete face. We'll go through some examples as we've done previously. Let's go ahead and select delete face. We want to move two of these bosses. We change our select to a single face. As we select that, NX will give us some alerts basically saying that in order for us to complete that, there's some additional faces needs to be resolved to help us heal that design change of deleting these bosses. So we want to go ahead and select that and then select adjacent blend edge as well. Once that is done, and then we can remove that. We can go back and add that afterwards if you want to make sure that corner transition is proper. Now we want to go ahead and delete the other face. As we select that, as NX begin to heal, it knows that that has been resolved by deleting that boss by selecting all the faces. Next we want to show is how do we delete a region of faces. We'll change our select intent to that, and then select both the thread and the planar face of the cylindrical, and then we want to come back to the back side of that. So as we select the back side of that, we hit an MB2. Now you notice that the value of that changed to 7. As we complete that by selecting apply, now all those regional faces within that is being deleted. Now let's take a look at this. Seems like there's some either design error or translation error of those blend and also corner. We want to know what are the value. So we want to select resize blend first. We see that the upper is 3, and then by selecting the bottom we say the lower is 2. Okay, so now let's go ahead and execute the delete face. We want to change our select to select intent to blend. As we select that, we select all the blends on the upper part of the 3mm. Now that is being deleted. Likewise, to select the corners of that, as we select that one, all of that has been deleted as well. Now I want to resolve some of this design inconsistency. Go ahead by deleting those 3 faces. Once we selected that, see that NX is healing of those edges. Now we want to just use the normal edge blend. The upper part has the value of 3, so we change that value to 3 to select tangent faces. So now that is quickly healed that and get that to the original. The bottom corner of that, now we need to change that value to 2, and then that is how we quickly can resolve the incorrect design. And this is part of the synchronous delete face. We'll now review this last part of synchronous modeling, what we call the replace face. As we activate this command, we see that there are some possibly translation error where cylindrical face has been split into multiple faces. We can change that to a single face. So once that is done, we can clean up that particular design. And then we also see that there are some additional errors of some of the planar faces that we can go ahead and do that by selecting the target face, original face versus replacement face. We notice that similar kind of issues down the stream of the parts of geometry. So now we'll go ahead and do the same thing by selecting what is our original face, what is our replacement face. We see that how we can quickly just kind of cleaned up, and then some of the other areas want to make sure that as also the transition is a little more cleaner. So we see that now we have removed some irregularities in our part of our design. Let's take a look at the other area. So in this case we see that couple faces. If we want these faces are in line with the vertical or the other directions of the grid, so we can by selecting those 2 faces and then replace with those the faces of the other direction. So we see that NX would go in there and heal that particular design and then line them up properly. Next couple examples that we will use a particular face of a surface. So we see that currently we have kind of a planar face on the top end of this housing. We want to select that face and then we want to replace with a curvature surface. In this case we can do an offset to a certain distance in a positive direction, or we can select that in the opposite directions of a certain value. So that's how we can quickly replace a planar face with a designed surface face. So that's how, as part of our synchronous capability. And then besides a surface, we also can use the same kind of approach for datum plane. So we want to grab onto several of these faces. all at the same shot as we select these 4 different faces, the top of cylinder, and then what is our replacement face? The replacement face will be a datum plane. So it will go through that. We can also select a offset distance. It can be a positive direction, or it can go into the material as well. So this is kind of how we can add synchronous modeling features to our design. So this will conclude our review of the synchronous modeling. Thank you.